Eliza Vane dragged her broken body through the dirt, leaving a trail of blood behind her. 3 days without food. 4 without hope. The summer sun had blistered her skin raw, and every breath felt like swallowing fire. She collapsed against a wooden gate, too weak to knock, too stubborn to die. When the door opened, a man's shadow fell across her face. She looked up with hollow eyes and whispered the only words she had left. "Please." He knelt down slowly and said, "I know that look. I wore it too. If you want to see how two broken people rebuild each other from nothing, subscribe to this channel and stay until the very end. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels." The flies found her before the rancher did. Eliza Vane lay crumpled against the fence post, her torn dress soaked through with sweat and blood that wasn't entirely her own. Her fingers still gripped the splintered wood like it might save her, like anything could save her now. She heard boots on dry ground, slow, deliberate. "You alive?" The voice came from somewhere above her, deep, worn thin by years of silence. Eliza tried to lift her head, failed, tried again. "Barely," she rasped. The boots stopped inches from her face. She could see the dust coating them, the cracked leather, the way they'd been mended more than once. Working boots. A working man. "How long you been out here?" "Don't know." Her tongue felt thick, useless. "Days. Maybe." A long pause. She waited for him to walk away. Everyone else had. Everyone else was dead. Instead, she heard him crouch down, felt rough hands slide under her arms. "This is gonna hurt." "Everything hurts." He lifted her anyway.
Chapter 2.
Elias Crow hadn't spoken to another living soul in 14 months. He'd counted. Not because he wanted to, but because counting was easier than feeling. The woman weighed almost nothing. That was the first thing he noticed. The second was the way she didn't cry out when he moved her, even though he could see the gash across her ribs, the bruises blooming purple across her arms. She'd learned to swallow pain. He recognized that. He carried her across the yard through the door he rarely opened anymore, and laid her on the cot by the cold fireplace. "I'm gonna get water." Her hand shot out and grabbed his wrist, weak but desperate. "Don't leave." He looked down at those fingers wrapped around his arm, looked at her face, gaunt, sun-scorched eyes too large for her skull. "I ain't leaving," he said quietly. "Just getting water, 5 steps away." She held on for another second, then let go. The water hit her cracked lips, and Eliza nearly choked. She forced herself to slow down, to take small sips, even though every instinct screamed at her to gulp it all. "Easy," he said. "You'll make yourself sick." "Already sick." "Sicker then." She almost laughed. Almost. The sound died somewhere in her chest. He sat back on his heels and studied her with eyes the color of storm clouds. Gray. Tired. Empty in a way she understood completely. "You got a name?" "Eliza. Eliza Vane. Elias Crow." He nodded once, like that settled something. "How'd you end up half dead on my fence?" She closed her eyes. The memories came whether she wanted them or not. "Caravan," she said. "We were headed to California. 32 people, families, children. What happened?" "Raiders." The word tasted like ash. "Hit us at dawn 3 days ago, maybe 4. I lost count." "Anyone else make it?" Eliza opened her eyes and looked at him. Really looked. "I watched them die, every single one. The Matthews family, they had twin girls, couldn't have been more than 6 years old. The raiders didn't care." Elias's jaw tightened. He said nothing. "I ran," Eliza continued. "I ran and I hid, and I kept running even when I couldn't feel my legs anymore, even when I wanted to stop." "Why didn't you?" "Because dying felt like letting them win." He nodded slowly. That answer made sense to him. "You're safe here," he said. "Ain't nobody coming up this far. Too remote. Too much trouble. Safe. She turned the word over like a stone she'd never seen before. I don't remember what that means. Neither do I. He stood up. But we can pretend together for a while. Well, the first night Eliza dreamed of fire. She woke up screaming, clawing at invisible hands fighting ghosts that wouldn't let go. By the time she realized where she was, Elias was already in the doorway, rifle in hand, scanning the dark. Just dreams, she gasped. I'm sorry. Just dreams. He lowered the rifle slowly, didn't put it down. Ain't nothing to apologize for. I woke you. Wasn't sleeping anyway. Wasn't. She watched him cross to the window, peer out at the empty night. His shoulders were rigid, his breathing controlled. A man ready for violence that wasn't coming. You don't sleep much, do you? She asked. Sleeps when the memories get loud. Yeah. She pulled the thin blanket tighter. Yeah, it is. He stood at that window for a long time. She didn't ask him to leave. He didn't offer to stay. But when she finally closed her eyes again, she could still hear him breathing, standing guard against nothing and everything. Ooh, morning came brutal and bright. Eliza tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. The wound on her ribs screamed at her and she fell back against the cot with a hiss of pain. Don't move! Elias appeared beside her with strips of clean cloth. That cut needs looking at. I can do it myself. Can you reach it yourself? She couldn't. They both knew it. Fine, she muttered. But if you hurt me, I'll be careful. He was. His hands were rough from years of labor, but his touch was gentle, almost hesitant. He cleaned the wound with water that had been boiled and cooled, applied some kind of salve that smelled like pine and something bitter. This'll sting. Can't be worse than getting it. How'd you get it? Knife. She stared at the ceiling. One of the raiders caught up to me on the second day. I got his blade away from him. And then I made sure he didn't follow me anymore. Elias paused, looked at her with something that might have been respect. Good. I never killed anyone before that. First time's the hardest. You sound like you know. He didn't answer, just kept wrapping the bandage. By the third day, Eliza could stand on her own. By the fifth, she could walk short distances without wanting to collapse. She found Elias in the barn repairing a harness that had seen better years. He didn't look up when she entered. Should be resting. Should be doing a lot of things. Resting ain't one of them. Stubborn woman? Stubborn man. He glanced up then. Something flickered in those gray eyes, amusement maybe, or surprise that she'd push back. You always this contrary, only when people tell me what to do. She leaned against the doorframe, catching her breath. I want to help. You're hurt. I'm healing. There's a difference. He set down the harness, studied her the way he might study a horse he wasn't sure he could trust. Why? Because I'm not good at sitting still. Because I owe you my life, and I don't like owing anybody anything. Because... She stopped, swallowed. Because if I don't keep my hands busy, my mind starts going places I can't follow. That he understood. She could see it in the way his shoulders softened. There's mending needs doing. Shirts mostly. Can you sew? I can learn. Fair enough. So, the routine came easier than either of them expected. Mornings Elias worked the land, what little of it he still maintained. Eliza started with small tasks, mending clothes, feeding the chickens that wandered the yard, sweeping the cabin floor that hadn't been swept in months. She didn't ask about the woman's dress she found folded in a trunk. He didn't ask about the wedding ring she still wore on her finger. Some questions weren't ready to be asked yet. You ever think about leaving this place? Eliza asked one evening, watching him chop wood in the yard. Every day. Why don't you? He brought the axe down. The log split clean in two. Where would I go? Anywhere. Town. Another territory. California. California. He said it like a curse. That where you were headed. That's where my husband's brother lives. Lived. I don't know anymore. She picked at a loose thread on her sleeve. We were supposed to start over. Build something new. Your husband? Dead before the raid. Fever took him 2 months back. I joined the caravan because I had nothing left. And now, she looked at him. Really looked. Now I got even less. He set down the axe, walked over, stood close enough that she could see the sweat on his brow, the lines carved deep around his mouth. You got a roof, food, time to figure out what comes next. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Helping me. You don't know me. I could be anyone. Could be. Aren't though. He picked up another log. I know what it looks like when someone's got nothing left to lose. I see it every morning in the mirror. The heat of summer pressed down on the valley like a weight. Eliza learned the rhythm of the ranch, when to water the garden, when to let the animals out, when to stay in the shade and wait for the worst of the afternoon sun to pass. She learned which floorboards creaked and which didn't, which cabinet held the dried beans and which held the coffee. Elias never seemed to run out of. She learned him too. She learned. He talked more than she expected once he started. Not much, but enough. Stories about the land, about the winters that nearly killed him, about the wolves that came down from the mountains when the snows got deep. He didn't talk about his wife. Not yet. You're staring, he said one afternoon, catching her watching him from across the room. Sorry. Don't be sorry. Just say what you're thinking. I'm thinking you're lonelier than you let on. He went still. The knife he'd been sharpening caught the light. That's so. You've been alone up here a long time. I can tell by the way you talk. Like you're surprised the words still work. Maybe I am. Maybe I am too. He set down the knife, turned to face her fully. My wife died 2 years ago, come September. Sarah. She got sick, and I couldn't save her. Spent 6 months barely eating, barely sleeping, barely breathing. Then I just stopped. Stopped trying to feel anything at all. Did it work? For a while. Then you showed up half dead on my fence, and I remembered what it felt like to worry about someone. I'm sorry. Don't be. I think I needed to remember. The nightmares didn't stop, but they got quieter. Some nights, Eliza would wake to find Elias sitting by the fire, feeding it small pieces of wood to keep it alive. She didn't ask why he was up. He didn't ask why she was shaking. They just sat together in the darkness, two people who understood that silence could be its own kind of comfort. You ever think about what happens next? She asked one night. What do you mean, after? After I'm healed? After I can travel again? He didn't answer right away. The fire crackled and popped. You thinking about leaving? I don't know what I'm thinking. That's the problem. Then don't think. Not yet. He poked at the fire. Some things you can't figure out by thinking. You just gotta let them happen. That sounds like something a preacher would say. My pa was a preacher. Guess some of it stuck. What happened to him? Same thing that happens to everyone eventually. He died. You miss him. Every day. Miss my ma too. Miss Sarah. Miss the man I used to be before I lost all of them. Eliza pulled her knees to her chest. The fire painted shadows on the walls. I don't know who I used to be anymore. I think she died back there with everyone else, and I don't know who I'm supposed to become. Elias looked at her then, really looked. You don't have to become anyone. You just have to survive long enough to figure out who you already are. She wanted to cry. She was too tired to cry. So she just nodded, and they sat together until the fire burned low and the first gray light of dawn crept through the window. 3 weeks. That's how long Eliza had been at the ranch when she realized she'd stopped counting the days since the raid. Stopped waking up every morning wondering if she was still alive. She was standing in the garden, pulling weeds from between the tomato plants. When the thought struck her, she felt something other than fear. It wasn't happiness. Not yet. But it was something. You're smiling. She looked up. Elias stood at the edge of the garden, arms crossed, watching her with that unreadable expression he wore like armor. Am I? First time I've seen it. She touched her own face, surprised. Guess I forgot what that felt like. Looks good on you. The words were simple, but they hit her somewhere deep. She turned back to the weeds, blinking hard. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For not asking me to be okay when I'm not. For letting me be broken while I figure out how to put the pieces back together. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked into the garden, crouched down beside her, and started pulling weeds too. You ain't broken, he said. You're just healing. There's a difference. She looked at him, this quiet, damaged man, who'd pulled her from the edge of death and asked nothing in return. Yeah, she said softly. I think I'm starting to understand that. The summer heat broke records that year, but Eliza barely noticed anymore. She woke before dawn most mornings now, her body finally learning to trust sleep again. The nightmares still came, but they'd grown quieter, more like echoes than screams. She found Elias already awake, coffee brewing on the stove, his back to her as he stared out the window at nothing. You sleep at all? He didn't turn around. Some. Liar. That made him glance over his shoulder. You calling me a liar, woman? I'm calling you stubborn. There's a difference. He almost smiled. Almost. Coffee's ready. She poured herself a cup, wrapped her hands around the warm tin, and stood beside him at the window. The silence between them had changed over the past weeks. It used to feel heavy, loaded with all the things neither of them could say. Now it felt different, comfortable. What are you thinking about? She asked. Nothing worth mentioning. Elias, he sighed, set down his cup. Thinking about Sarah. She used to stand right where you're standing, every morning. Said she liked watching the sun come up because it meant we'd made it through another night. That's beautiful. That's Sarah. She found beauty in everything, even when there wasn't any to find. Eliza looked at him. Really looked. The grief was still there, carved into the lines around his eyes. But there was something else now, too. Something softer. Do you think she'd mind? Eliza asked quietly. Me being here, mind. He turned to face her fully. She'd probably be out there right now telling me I should have brought you inside sooner. Woman never could stand to see anyone suffering. Sounds like someone I would have liked. You would have. She would have liked you too. He picked up his cup again. She always said I needed someone to argue with, kept me honest. And do I keep you honest? You keep me something. Ain't figured out what yet. They drank their coffee in silence, watching the first light spill across the valley, and Eliza realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this close to peace. The moment shattered an hour later. Eliza was in the barn brushing down the old mare Elias kept more out of sentiment than necessity when she heard hoofbeats, fast, getting closer. Her whole body went rigid. The brush fell from her fingers. Eliza! Elias appeared in the doorway, rifle already in hand. Get inside. Who is it? Don't know. Don't care. Get inside now. She didn't argue. She ran. From the window, she watched a lone rider approach a young man barely out of his teens, pushing his horse hard. He pulled up short when he saw Elias standing in the yard, rifle raised. Hold it right there. Mr. Crow. The boy's voice cracked. Mr. Crow, it's me. Tommy Barker. From town. Elias didn't lower the rifle. What do you want? Sheriff sent me. There's been trouble. Raiders hit the Macklin place 2 days ago. Killed everyone. He's warning all the outlying ranches. Eliza's knees nearly gave out. Raiders. The word alone was enough to send her spiraling back to that morning when everything she had was ripped away. How many? Elias asked. Don't know for sure. Maybe 8, maybe 10. They're working their way through the valley. Sheriff says anyone who can should come into town until they're caught. I ain't leaving my land. Mr. Crow. I said no, said. Tommy shifted nervously in his saddle. There's a woman, sir. Survivor from a caravan attack a few weeks back. Sheriff's been looking for her. Says she might have information about the gang. Eliza stopped breathing. Elias didn't hesitate. Didn't even blink. Ain't seen any woman. You sure she'd be in pretty bad shape? Dark hair, young? I know what a woman looks like, boy. I said I ain't seen her. Tommy held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, but if you do see anything, I'll handle it. The boy rode away, and Eliza stayed frozen at the window, heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Elias came inside, set down the rifle, looked at her. Why'd you lie? She whispered. Because whatever information they think you have ain't worth your life. You don't know that. I know what happens to witnesses in situations like this. They get used up and thrown away. I ain't letting that happen to you. She sank into a chair, her legs suddenly unable to hold her. They're here. The same men who killed everyone they're here in this valley. Maybe, maybe not. Raiders move fast. Could be a different gang entirely. Could be the same one. He crouched down in front of her, took her shaking hands in his. Look at me. Eliza. Look at me. She forced her eyes to meet his. I spent 2 years hiding from the world because I was scared of losing anyone else. But you know what I figured out? Fear don't protect you. It just keeps you from living. Those men, whoever they are, they already took everything from you once. Don't let them take anything else. What if they come here? Then they'll find out what happens when you threaten something a man's decided to protect. The conviction in his voice surprised her. Surprised him too, if the look on his face was any indication. You barely know me, she said. I know enough. She squeezed his hands, held on like he was the only solid thing in a world that kept trying to shake her loose. What do we do now? We keep living. That's how you beat them. You keep living. The days that followed were tense, watchful. Elias taught her to shoot. You ever held a rifle before? My husband showed me once. I wasn't any good. Your husband wasn't a very good teacher then. Here. He adjusted her grip, her stance, the angle of her shoulders. Don't fight it. The rifle wants to go where it wants to go. Your job is to guide it, not force it. That sounds like philosophy, not marksmanship. It's both. Now breathe, slow, and squeeze. She fired. The kick sent her stumbling back a step, but the tin can she'd been aiming at flew off the fence post with a satisfying clang. I hit it. You hit it. She turned to him, grinning like a child. I actually hit it. Don't get too excited. That was 15 feet. A real target won't stand still and wait for you. Let me try again. By the end of the afternoon, she could hit a target at 30 feet more often than not. Her shoulder ached. Her ears were ringing, but she felt something she hadn't felt in months capable. Why are you smiling? She asked as they walked back to the cabin. Just thinking. About what? About how Sarah couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Used to drive her crazy. She'd get so frustrated she'd throw the rifle down and storm off. I'd find her an hour later practicing with rocks and bottles. Did she ever get better? Never. But she never stopped trying either. Stubborn woman. You keep saying that like it's a bad thing. Never said it was bad. Said it was stubborn. Eliza laughed a real laugh, full and free. It startled both of them. What? She asked when she saw his expression. Nothing. Just been a long time since I heard that sound in this house. She looked at him, looked at the cabin behind him, the land stretching out in all directions, the sky beginning to turn orange and pink with the setting sun. Thank you, she said. For what? For giving me something to shoot at. That ain't what you're thanking me for. No, it ain't. That night they ate dinner together like they always did, beans and cornbread, simple and filling. But something had shifted between them. The air felt charged electric with words neither of them was ready to speak. Can I ask you something? Eliza said. You're gonna ask whether I say yes or not. Why didn't you ever remarry after Sarah? Elias set down his fork, leaned back, thought about it once or twice, But every woman I met just reminded me of what I'd lost. Couldn't see past the ghost, you know. I know. And then after a while I stopped wanting to see past it. Felt like moving on meant forgetting her. Couldn't do that. Moving on isn't forgetting. It's just making room for something new while still holding on to what came before. That what you've done? She considered the question. Really thought about it. I'm trying. My husband, Thomas. He wasn't perfect. We fought more than we should have. But he was kind, and he loved me, and when he died I thought I'd never feel anything again. But then I nearly died too, and I realized something. What's that? That he wouldn't want me to waste what he gave up. He'd want me to live. Really live. Not just survive. Elias was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Sarah would say the same thing. She was always telling me I worked too hard, worried too much, smiled too little. Used to say I'd turn into a rock if I didn't loosen up. Have you loosened up? Not till recently. Their eyes met across the table. Something passed between them. Recognition, understanding, the beginning of something neither of them was ready to name. It's getting late, Eliza said finally. I should... Yeah, we should get some sleep. Neither of them moved. Elias. Yeah. Whatever this is, whatever's happening between us, I'm not ready. Not yet. I know. But I'm not saying never. He looked at her. Really looked. I can wait. She got up from the table, walked to the cot by the fireplace, lay down with her back to him. Good night, Elias. Good night, Eliza. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she fell asleep without fear. A week passed, then another. The routine deepened. They fell into a rhythm that felt less like cohabitation and more like partnership. Elias worked the land. Eliza kept the house. They shared meals, shared silences, shared the quiet work of keeping a life running. She learned things about him that surprised her. He could play the harmonica, though he claimed he'd forgotten how. He read poetry by candlelight when he thought she was sleeping old worn books with pages soft from years of handling. He talked to his horse like it could understand him, and maybe it could. He learned things about her too. She sang while she worked old hymns her mother had taught her. She couldn't abide chaos. Everything had to be in its place, organized, controlled. She flinched at loud noises, but stood her ground against any kind of threat. They were both broken. They were both healing. And somewhere along the way, they'd started healing each other. You ever think about having children? Eliza asked one afternoon. They were mending the fence at the far edge of the property, working side by side in the relentless summer heat. Elias paused, hammer mid-swing. Sarah and I tried. For years. Never happened. I'm sorry. It is what it is. What about you? Thomas and I talked about it. Said we'd wait until we were settled somewhere. California, maybe. Build a house first. Get established, then start a family. She wrapped wire around a fence post, pulling it tight. Guess that's not happening now? Never say never. She looked at him sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Means life has a funny way of giving you things you stopped asking for. Just when you've given up hoping. You believe that. Didn't used to. Starting to. She didn't know how to respond to that, so she just kept working. But she felt his eyes on her, and she felt something warm bloom in her chest that she wasn't ready to examine. The trouble came at the worst possible moment. Eliza was alone at the cabin. Elias had ridden out to check on a section of fence that had been giving them problems. She was kneading bread, her hands covered in flour, when she heard horses. Multiple horses. She grabbed the rifle from beside the door and pressed herself against the wall, heart hammering. Hello, the house. A man's voice, rough and unfamiliar. Anyone home? She didn't answer, didn't move. We know someone's in there. Saw the smoke from your chimney. Still nothing. Ma'am, we ain't looking for trouble. Just need directions is all. Eliza's hands shook. The rifle felt impossibly heavy. Then she heard it hoofbeats coming fast from the other direction. Elias. Can I help you, gentlemen? His voice was calm, too calm, The kind of calm that came right before violence. Just looking for directions, friend. Trying to find the old Miller place. Miller place burned down 3 years ago. Nothing there but ashes. That's so. The stranger sounded disappointed. Well, appreciate you letting us know. We'll be on our way. See that you are. There was a long pause. Eliza held her breath. Then the horses moved. Fading, getting quieter. The door opened, and Elias stepped inside, his face a mask of controlled fury. You all right? I'm fine. I didn't. You did good. You stayed quiet, stayed hidden. That's exactly what you should have done. Who were they? Don't know, don't care. They're gone now. Elias! She grabbed his arm. Were they? I don't know. He covered her hand with his. But I'm not going to let anything happen to you. You hear me? Nothing. She believed him. That was the terrifying part. The next few days were tense. Elias started carrying his rifle everywhere, even to the barn, even to the well. He'd ride out every morning and evening, checking the perimeter, looking for signs of anyone who didn't belong. You can't keep doing this, Eliza said finally. Doing what? Treating every shadow like an enemy. You'll run yourself into the ground. Better run myself into the ground than let someone hurt you. Elias? I already lost one person. He stopped, turned away. Eliza felt her breath catch. One person, you what? Nothing. Elias? He didn't answer, just kept walking toward the barn. She followed him, grabbed his arm, forced him to face her. One person, you what? He looked at her, then really looked, and she saw it. Everything he'd been trying to hide. All the fear and hope and desperate wanting that he'd buried so deep, even he'd forgotten it was there. I lost one person I cared about, he said quietly. I ain't gonna lose another. The admission hung between them heavy with meaning. You care about me, Eliza said. It wasn't a question. More than I should, more than I meant to. She stepped closer, close enough to touch. I care about you too. More than I thought I could. More than I thought I had left in me. Eliza. I know. I said I wasn't ready. I'm still not. Not completely. But I'm more ready than I was. And I think... She took a shaky breath. I think I don't want to wait anymore. Not for this. Not when life keeps trying to take everything away. He reached up, touched her face. His hands were rough, calloused, trembling slightly. You sure? No, but I'm tired of being afraid. Aren't you? Every damn day. She rose on her toes, pressed her lips to his, soft, questioning. He kissed her back. It wasn't a grand sweeping moment. No fireworks, no music, no dramatic declarations. It was just two people broken and healing, choosing to reach for something good in a world that had given them nothing but pain. When they finally pulled apart, Elias rested his forehead against hers. I don't know what I'm doing, he admitted. Neither do I. But I figure we can not know together. He laughed a real laugh, rough and unpracticed. You're something else, Eliza Vane. So are you, Elias Crow. They stood there for a long time, holding on to each other. Holding on to the possibility of something neither of them had dared to hope for. The world outside was still dangerous. The raiders were still out there. The future was still uncertain. But for the first time in longer than either of them could remember, they weren't facing it alone. That night, Eliza didn't sleep on the cot by the fireplace. She lay awake in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with everything that had changed and everything that might change still. You awake? Elias's voice soft from across the room. Yeah. Can't sleep. Too much thinking. She heard him sit up, heard his feet hit the floor. Move over. She did. He sat on the edge of the cot, small, barely big enough for one person, certainly not built for two. This is ridiculous, she said. It is. One of us is going to fall off. Probably. Elias, just let me hold you, that's all, just for tonight. She shifted, made room. He lay down beside her, his arm around her waist, her back against his chest. It was awkward and uncomfortable and perfect. "This still doesn't mean I'm ready for everything," she whispered. "I know. I just want to feel safe, just for one night." "I know that too." She closed her eyes, felt his breath against her hair, felt his heartbeat steady and strong against her back. "Elias, yeah. Thank you. For finding me. For saving me. For everything." "You saved yourself, Eliza. I just gave you a place to land." She fell asleep like that, wrapped in the arms of a man she was only beginning to understand. And for the first time since the raid, she didn't dream of fire. She dreamed of morning. Morning came with the smell of smoke. Eliza woke first, her nose catching the acrid scent before her mind could register what it meant. She sat up so fast she nearly knocked Elias off the narrow cot. "What is it?" "Smoke. Something's burning." He was on his feet in seconds, rifle in hand before she could blink. He threw open the door and stepped outside, scanning the horizon. "Elias? It's coming from the east. Miles away, but—" He stopped. His whole body went rigid. "But what?" "That's the direction of the Henderson place." Eliza joined him at the doorway. Even from this distance, she could see the dark column rising against the pale morning sky. The raiders could be anything. Lightning strike, cooking fire gone wrong. "You don't believe that?" He didn't answer, which was answer enough. "I need to ride out there," he said. "Check on them. Old man Henderson's got a bad leg. His wife's half blind. If they need help, I'm coming with you." "No, Elias." "I said no." He turned to face her and she saw fear in his eyes for the first time since she'd known him. Real, raw fear. "If it's raiders, I need to know you're safe. I need to know I have something to come back to. And if you don't come back at all, then you take the horse and ride for town. Don't look back. Don't wait for me." "I won't do that." "Eliza, I won't." She grabbed at his arm, pulled him close. "I spent weeks thinking I was alone in the world. I'm not doing that again. Not for anyone. Not even you." He looked at her, really looked, and she watched the war playing out across his face. The need to protect her fighting against the knowledge that he couldn't force her to stay. "You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met. And you're the most stubborn man. Reckon that makes us even." He almost smiled. "Almost. Fine. But you stay behind me. You do exactly what I say, and if I tell you to run, I'll argue about it later." "Eliza, I heard you. I'll run." She was lying. They both knew it, but there wasn't time to argue. They rode hard toward the smoke. Eliza clung to Elias's back, her arms wrapped around his waist, the horse eating up the miles beneath them. The smoke got thicker as they approached, the smell sharper, and by the time they crested the final ridge, she knew what they'd find. The Henderson place was gone. Not damaged, not salvageable. Gone. The house, the barn, the chicken coop, all of it reduced to smoldering ash and blackened timber. Elias dismounted. First, rifle raised, eyes scanning for any sign of movement. "Stay here." This time, Eliza obeyed. She watched him pick his way through the wreckage, checking behind collapsed walls, kicking through debris. "Elias." He didn't answer. Elias. He emerged from behind what used to be the barn, his face the color of old bone. "They're dead, both of them." Eliza's stomach dropped. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." His voice was flat, hollow. It wasn't quick. They made it slow. She slid off the horse and went to him, ignoring his earlier warning. He stood there, rifle hanging loose at his side, staring at nothing. "We need to go," she said quietly. "If they're still in the area. They wanted us to find this." "What?" "Look around." He gestured at the destruction. "They didn't take anything. Didn't loot the place. Just burned it and left. This is a message." "A message for who?" "For anyone who thinks they're safe out here. For anyone who might be hiding something or someone they want." The implication hit her like a physical blow. "You think they're looking for me?" I think they're looking for anyone who survived. Anyone who could identify them. I can. I can identify every single one of them. I see their faces every time I close my eyes." Elias turned to her then. The hollow look was gone, replaced by something fierce and desperate. "Then we make sure they never find you." "How?" "We leave. Tonight. Pack what we can carry and ride for the mountains. I know places up there no one could find. We disappear until this blows over." "And your ranch?" "Everything you built here. It's just land. Just buildings. It doesn't matter. It matters to you. It's all you have left of Sarah." He flinched at the name, looked away. "Sarah's dead. You're not. I know which one I need to protect." They rode back in silence, but it was a different kind of silence now. Heavy, urgent, loaded with everything that needed to be said and no time to say it. When they reached the cabin, Elias started packing immediately. Clothes, food, ammunition, anything that could be carried on horseback. Eliza watched him for a moment, then spoke. "I'm not going." He stopped, turned slowly. "What did you say?" "I said I'm not going. I'm not running anymore." "Eliza, this isn't about pride. These men will kill you." "Maybe. But I've been running since the raid. Running from the memories. Running from the fear. Running from everything that hurts too much to face." She took a breath. Let it out. "I'm tired, Elias. I'm so tired of running. Being tired isn't worth dying over. Neither is being a coward for the rest of my life." She stepped toward him. "You said it yourself. Fear doesn't protect you. It just keeps you from living. I believed you when you said that. Did you believe yourself?" He stared at her, said nothing. "If we run now, we'll be running forever. Every shadow will be a threat. Every stranger will be an enemy. Is that the life you want? Because it isn't the life I want. Not anymore." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we stay. We fight. We take back the thing they stole from me. And if they come, then they find out what happens when you corner two people who've got nothing left to lose." The words hung in the air between them. Elias looked at her, really looked like he was seeing her for the first time. "You're serious. Dead serious. You could die. I could. So could you. So could anyone any day for any reason. The Matthews family didn't wake up that morning thinking they wouldn't see sunset. Thomas didn't know a fever would take him before we reached California." Her voice cracked, but she pushed through. "We don't get to choose when we die, Elias. But we get to choose how we live. And I choose to stop being afraid." He set down the pack he'd been filling, crossed the room in 3 long strides, grabbed her face in both hands. "You're the bravest woman I've ever known." "No, I'm just tired of being a victim." He kissed her, hard, desperate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of her in case it was the last time. When they broke apart, both of them were breathing heavy. "All right," he said. "We stay. But we do it my way. We fortify the cabin, set up positions we can defend from, and you learn to shoot better than you've ever shot in your life." "I can do that." "I know you can. That's what scares me." The next 3 days were a blur of preparation. Elias moved with a purpose Eliza hadn't seen in him before. He reinforced the cabin door, boarded up windows, created sight lines from every angle. He taught her where to hide if they were overrun, where the secondary weapons were stashed, how to reload faster than she thought possible. Again, Eliza lifted the rifle, fired. The can flew off the fence post. "Faster, they won't give you time to aim." She reloaded, fired again. Another can down. "Good, now do it with your hands shaking." "Why would my hands be shaking?" "Because when it's real they will, trust me." She did trust him. That was the terrifying part. On the 4th night they sat together on the porch, watching the last light fade from the sky. The silence between them had changed again. It wasn't comfortable anymore. It was loaded, waiting. "Can I ask you something?" Eliza said. "You always do. If we survive this, what happens next?" Elias was quiet for a long moment. "Don't know. Haven't thought that far ahead." "Liar." He glanced at her, almost smiled. "You're getting good at calling me out." I've had practice. She shifted closer to him. Tell me, what do you want to happen? Honestly? Honestly. He took a breath. Let it out slow. I want to wake up tomorrow morning. I want to have coffee with you. I want to fix that broken fence in the east pasture and complain about the heat and eat whatever you burn for dinner. I don't burn things. You burned the cornbread last Tuesday. That was one time. And I want to do it again the next day. And the day after that. And every day until I'm too old and broken down to lift a hammer. Eliza felt something shift in her chest. Something opening that had been closed for a very long time. That sounds nice. It does, doesn't it? Very domestic. I'm a domestic kind of man. She laughed. Actually laughed. No, you're not. You're a stubborn, difficult, closed-off kind of man who talks to his horse more than he talks to people. That horse is a good listener. Better than me. Different than you. He turned to face her fully. You challenge me. That horse just agrees with everything I say. Maybe you need someone who challenges you. Maybe I do. The words hung there, heavy with meaning. Elias. Yeah. I don't want to run anymore, but I also don't want to wait anymore. For anything. What are you saying? She took his hand, laced her fingers through his. I'm saying that if something happens, if they come and we don't make it, I don't want to die wondering what could have been. I want to know. Eliza, I want to be your wife. The words came out before she could stop them, before she could second-guess herself, and once they were out, she couldn't take them back. Elias stared at her. The silence stretched so long she started to worry she'd made a terrible mistake. Then he spoke. Say that again. I want to be your wife, officially, legally, whatever way makes it real. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. He pulled her close, kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose. I was going to ask you, he murmured against her skin. When this was over, I was going to do it proper, get down on one knee, maybe even buy a ring from town. You were, been thinking about it for weeks, trying to figure out the right words. What words? He pulled back, looked her in the eyes. Eliza Vane. I've spent 2 years thinking I was dead inside. Then you showed up half dead on my fence, and somehow made me realize I was wrong. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if we'll survive tomorrow, or next week, or next year. But I know I don't want to face any of it without you. Will you marry me? She was crying. She didn't know when she'd started. Yes. Yeah. Yes, you stubborn, impossible man. Yes. He kissed her then. Really kissed her. And for a moment, all the fear and uncertainty melted away, leaving nothing but this, two people choosing each other, choosing hope, choosing life. The world could burn, the raiders could come, they would face it together. They married 3 days later. It wasn't much of a ceremony. No preacher, no witnesses, just the two of them standing in the cabin that had become their home, saying words they'd written themselves. I promise to stay, Eliza said. When leaving would be easier, when the darkness comes, when everything falls apart. I promise to stay. I promise to fight, Elias said. For you, for us, for the life we're building. I promise to never stop fighting. They exchanged rings, simple bands Elias had made from copper wire, crude but meaningful. He slipped his onto her finger. She slipped hers onto his. I love you, she said. The words felt strange in her mouth, foreign. She hadn't said them to anyone since Thomas. I love you too. He pulled her close. God help me, I love you too. That night they slept in the same bed for the first time. Not the cramped cot by the fireplace, but Elias's bed, the one he'd shared with Sarah, the one he'd avoided since her death. You sure about this? Eliza asked. It's just a bed. It's more than that, and we both know it. He looked at her, really looked. Sarah would want this. She'd want me to move on, to be happy. She told me that at the end. Made me promise. Did you? I promised I'd try. I didn't believe I could. Not until you. Eliza touched his face, traced the lines around his eyes, the gray in his hair. I'm scared. Of what? Of being happy, of losing it, of finally having something worth losing. That's the risk, isn't it? You can't have joy without risking grief, can't have love without risking loss. He covered her hand with his, but I'd rather have both than neither. Me too. They fell asleep tangled together, two broken people finally whole. The riders came at dawn. Eliza woke to the sound of hoofbeats, not one horse this time, but many. She was on her feet before she fully registered what she was hearing. Elias! He was already awake, already reaching for his rifle. How many? She peered through the crack in the boards covering the window. 6, maybe 7. Armed, all of them. He handed her the second rifle, checked that it was loaded. Remember what I taught you? I remember. Stay low, pick your targets, don't waste ammunition. Elias. What? She grabbed him, kissed him hard. Don't die. Same to you. The riders stopped at the edge of the property, close enough to see far enough to be cautious. One of them moved forward, a big man on a black horse, his face half hidden by a hat. Hello, the house. Neither Eliza nor Elias responded. We know someone's in there, saw your smoke. We're just looking for someone. Help us out and we'll be on our way. Silence. Don't make this difficult, friend. We're looking for a woman, dark hair, young. She survived a caravan raid about 2 months back. Anyone seen her, there's a reward. Eliza's hands tightened on the rifle. Last chance, the man called out. Give her up and nobody gets hurt. Elias moved to the door, positioned himself where he could shoot through the gap without being exposed. Nobody here but me, he called back. You've got the wrong place. That's so. The man sounded amused. Funny. My boys tell me different. Say they saw a woman through the window just yesterday. The men who came asking for directions. They'd been scouts. Your boys were mistaken. Don't think so. The man's voice hardened. Here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna send that woman out. She's gonna answer some questions. And then depending on what she says, maybe we let you both live. And if I refuse, then we burn this place down with both of you inside. Same as we did the Hendersons. Same as we do to anyone who gets in our way. Eliza moved closer to Elias, pressed her hand against his back. I should go out there, she whispered. Over my dead body. That's exactly what I'm trying to avoid. I said no, Eliza. If I can identify them, if I can give the sheriff their names and descriptions, you think they're gonna let you live long enough to do that? They're cleaning up loose ends. You're a loose end. Elias. No. He turned his head just enough to catch her eye. I didn't marry you so I could watch you die. You didn't marry me so you could die either. 30 seconds. The man outside called. Then we start shooting. Eliza made a decision. It was probably the wrong one, but it was hers. She pushed past Elias and threw open the door. I'm the one you're looking for. The man on the black horse studied her. His face was weathered, scarred, familiar, in a way that made her stomach turn. Well, well, there she is, the one that got away. I remember you, Eliza said. Her voice was steadier than she felt. You led the raid. You gave the orders. Smart girl? Not smart enough to die with the rest of them, apparently. The man laughed. Actually laughed. I like you. Got spirit. Most people, they see what we do, they fall apart. Crying, begging. You though you ran, kept running, made us work for it. Sorry to inconvenience you. Oh, you did more than that. His expression hardened. You're the only witness, the only person who can put a name to our faces. That makes you a problem. Then finish it. Right here, right now. Eliza. Elias grabbed her arm. She shook him off, kept her eyes on the man. You want me? Come and get me. But you better be sure Because I'm not the same person I was 2 months ago. And neither is the man standing behind me. The leader looked past her, looked at Elias. Something flickered in his expression. Calculation reassessment. The widow's got herself a protector. That's sweet. Last chance, Elias said. His voice was flat, deadly. Right away. Forget you ever saw this place. And maybe I won't hunt every single one of you down and make you pay for what you did to those people. Big words from one man. I'm not just one man, not anymore. The standoff stretched. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then gunfire. Eliza never saw who shot first. One moment there was silence. The next, chaos. She dove back into the cabin, grabbing her rifle, finding her position by the window. Elias was already firing controlled shots, picking targets. 1 down, he shouted. 2. Bullets splintered the wood around her. She forced herself to breathe, to aim, to squeeze. A man fell from his horse. Got one? Keep shooting. More gunfire, more chaos. The world narrowed to the rifle in her hands, the targets in her sights, the sound of Elias's voice calling out positions. Then silence. Eliza looked through the window, bodies on the ground, horses fleeing, and the leader, the man on the black horse, riding hard toward the horizon. He's getting away. Let him go. Elias, let him go. He grabbed her, turned her to face him. It's over. For now it's over. She looked at him, really looked. Blood on his cheek from a splinter. Powder burns on his hands, alive, whole. It's over. They'll think twice before coming back. And when they do, if they do, we'll be ready. She started shaking then, the adrenaline leaving her body all at once, taking her strength with it. I know. I thought we were going to. I know. He pulled her close, held her tight. But we didn't. We're still here. We're still standing. She buried her face in his chest and let the tears come. They had won. For now, they had won. The bodies stayed where they fell until noon. Eliza couldn't stop looking at them. 3 men who'd come to kill her now lying in the dirt like broken dolls. She'd helped put them there. Her bullets, her hands. You need to stop, Elias said quietly. Stop what? Looking at them like that. Like they're gonna get up and finish what they started. They might. The leader's still out there. He's running. Men like that, they don't come back alone. They come back with numbers or not at all. We bought ourselves time. How much time? Enough. He took her hand, led her away from the window. We need to bury them. I know. And then we need to go to town. Talk to the sheriff. Tell him what happened. Eliza's stomach dropped. Town, I can't. You can. And you will. He squeezed her fingers. You're not a fugitive, Eliza. You're a survivor. The only crime you committed was staying alive. What if they don't see it that way? Then they answer to me. They buried the raiders in shallow graves at the far edge of the property. No markers. No prayers. Just dirt over bones. Elias drove the shovel into the earth one final time and stepped back. Done. Doesn't feel done. It won't. Not for a long time. He wiped the sweat from his forehead. First time I killed a man, I was 19. Cattle rustler who pulled a knife on me. I threw up for 3 days straight. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Kept seeing his face every time I closed my eyes. How'd you get past it? Time. And realizing that his death was a consequence of his choices, not mine. He decided to pull that knife. I just responded. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No. It's supposed to remind you that guilt is a luxury you can't afford right now. We're alive. They're not. That's the only math that matters. She looked at the fresh-turned earth. 3 mounds. 3 lives ended. Let's go to town. The ride took most of the afternoon. Eliza sat behind Elias on the horse, her arms wrapped around his waist, her face pressed against his back. Every mile that passed felt like a step toward something she couldn't take back. "You're shaking," he said. "I'm fine." "You're a terrible liar." "I'm a great liar. I just choose not to lie to you." He laughed a real laugh, unexpected and warm. "Fair enough." They reached town just as the sun started to dip toward the horizon. Northridge wasn't much to look at, a handful of buildings clustered around a single dusty street. But to Eliza, it might as well have been a firing squad. "Ready?" "No." "Good. Neither am I." They dismounted and tied the horse to a post. People were already staring. Whispers followed them like shadows as they walked toward the sheriff's office. "That's Elias Crow." "Who's the woman? Never seen her before. Look at her dress. She's been through something." Eliza kept her eyes forward, kept walking. The sheriff's office was small and cramped, smelling of tobacco and old paper. The man behind the desk looked up when they entered, a weathered face, gray mustache, eyes that had seen too much to be surprised by anything. "Crow. Been a while." "Sheriff Dawson." "Heard you've been keeping to yourself up at the ranch. Who's this?" Elias stepped aside so Eliza could be seen clearly. "This is my wife, Eliza Crow. She's got something to tell you." The sheriff's eyebrows rose. "Wife didn't know you were courting anyone." "Wasn't. Things happened fast." "They always do." Dawson gestured to the chairs across from his desk. "Sit down, both of you. Tell me what's going on." Eliza told him everything. The caravan, the raid, the weeks of hiding at Elias's ranch, the men who came looking for her, the fight that left 3 of them dead. The sheriff listened without interrupting. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair and rubbed his jaw. "That's quite a story." "It's not a story. It's the truth." "I believe you." He stood up and walked to the window. "We've been tracking these raiders for months. They hit the Henderson place 2 weeks back. Macklin Farm before that. Every time we get close, they disappear." "The leader got away," Elias said. "Big man, black horse, scar across his left cheek. Marcus Cole." Dawson's voice hardened. "Former Army, dishonorable discharge. Started his own outfit about 3 years back. Been terrorizing settlements from here to Colorado." "You know him?" "I know of him. Never been able to pin anything on him. No witnesses." He turned to face Eliza. "Until now." The weight of his words settled over her like a blanket. "You want me to testify?" "I want you to help me put him away, permanently. And if he comes after me again, then he deals with the full force of the law, and this town." Eliza looked at Elias. He gave her a small nod. "All right, I'll do it. Whatever you need." "Good." Dawson extended his hand. "Welcome to Northridge, Mrs. Crow." She shook it. Her hand was still trembling, but her voice was steady. "Thank you, Sheriff." Word spread fast. By the time they left the sheriff's office, half the town seemed to know who Eliza was. The stares that had been curious before were something else now, suspicious, wary, afraid. "That's her, the one who survived the raid. Brought trouble right to our doorstep. Bad luck is what she is." Eliza tried to ignore them, tried to walk with her head high, but each whisper felt like a knife between her ribs. "Hey." Elias stopped, turned to face her. "Don't let them get to you. Easy for you to say. They're not looking at you like you're carrying plague. They're scared. People do stupid things when they're scared. That doesn't make it hurt less." "No, it doesn't." He took her hand, held it tight. "But you've got me, and I've got you. That's more than most people can say." They were about to head for the general store when a voice cut through the murmurs. Elias Crow. They turned. A woman was pushing through the small crowd, gray-haired, sharp-eyed, built like she'd spent her whole life fighting for what she wanted. "Mrs. Holloway," Elias said. "Don't you Mrs. Holloway me." She stopped in front of them, hands on her hips. "I hear you got yourself married and didn't even have the decency to invite anyone." "It was a private ceremony." "Private. She turned her attention to Eliza, studied her with an intensity that made Eliza want to disappear. "So, you're the one who's got this whole town in an uproar." "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "Didn't say you did, just said you did." Mrs. Holloway's expression softened slightly. "I heard what happened to your caravan. That's a terrible thing. No one should have to live through that." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I also heard you and Elias killed 3 men up at his ranch." "They were trying to kill us first." "I know that too." The older woman nodded slowly. "Takes courage to stand your ground when easier paths are available. I respect that." She turned to the watching crowd, her voice rising. "You all should be ashamed of yourselves, standing there whispering like a bunch of old hens. This woman survived something most of you couldn't imagine. She and Elias defended their home against killers. That makes them heroes, not pariahs." Silence fell over the street. "Now," Mrs. Holloway continued, "if anyone's got something to say, they can say it to my face. Otherwise, I suggest you all get back to your own business." The crowd dispersed, slowly, reluctantly, but they dispersed. Mrs. Holloway turned back to Eliza with a satisfied smile. "There, that should give you some peace." "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just come to dinner on Sunday. I want to hear your whole story, and I want to make sure this fool is treating you right." "Hey," Elias protested. "Hush. I've known you since you were knee-high. I'm allowed to call you a fool." She patted Eliza's arm. "Sunday, 4 o'clock. Don't be late." She walked away without waiting for a response. Eliza stared after her. Who was that Martha Holloway? She ran the schoolhouse for 30 years before she retired. She also happens to be the most stubborn woman in the territory. I like her. Everyone does, even the people who hate her. They finished their business in town supplies, ammunition, a few things for the house, and started the long ride home. The sun was setting by the time they reached the ranch, painting everything in shades of gold and red. "That went better than I expected," Eliza said. "It did." "You think they'll accept me eventually?" "Some will, some won't. That's just how people are." He helped her down from the horse. "The question is whether you can live with that." "I've lived with worse." "Yeah, you have." They walked inside together. The cabin felt different now. Smaller somehow. Warmer. "We should expand," Eliza said suddenly. "Expand. The cabin. It's too small. If we're going to build a life here, we need more room." Elias looked around, looked at the walls he'd stared at for 2 years of solitude. "You want to change things." "I want to make it ours. Not just yours. Not just mine. Ours." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right. We expand. What did you have in mind?" They talked late into the night. Plans. Dreams. The kind of future neither of them had allowed themselves to imagine before. A bigger bedroom. A proper kitchen. Maybe someday a room for children. "Children," Eliza said, testing the word. "If you want them." "Do you?" "I thought I'd never have the chance. After Sarah..." He stopped, swallowed. "I stopped wanting things I couldn't have. And now I want everything. With you." She kissed him. Soft, tender. "Then we'll have everything. Whatever that means." The next few weeks were the hardest work of Eliza's life. They started with this foundation. Digging, hauling, measuring twice and cutting once. Elias was meticulous, demanding perfection in every joint and beam. "It's just a wall," Eliza said one afternoon, watching him redo a section for the 3rd time. "It's not just a wall. It's the thing that keeps you safe when I'm not here." "You planning on going somewhere?" "No, but life happens. I want to know this place will stand no matter what." She understood then. This wasn't about construction. It was about legacy. About building something that would outlast them both. "Show me how to do it right." He did. Taught her how to hammer nails without bending them. How to plane a board smooth. How to see the structure beneath the surface. They worked side by side, sun up to sundown, and somewhere in all that labor, something shifted between them. The last walls came down. The final barriers crumbled. They weren't two broken people anymore. They were partners. Sunday dinner at Mrs. Holloway's house became a regular thing. The older woman took Eliza under her wing with a fierceness that surprised everyone, including Eliza herself. She taught her which families in town could be trusted and which should be avoided. She introduced her to the other women, smoothing over the rough edges of suspicion with the force of her personality. "Why are you doing this?" Eliza asked one evening. "Doing what?" "Helping me. You don't even know me." Mrs. Holloway set down her teacup. "I lost my husband 20 years ago. Fever took him, same as it takes so many out here. After he died, people looked at me different, like I was cursed, like bad luck was catching. That's terrible. It was. But I didn't let it break me. I kept going, kept teaching, kept living, and eventually people forgot why they were afraid." She reached across the table and took Eliza's hand. "You remind me of myself at that age, scared but fighting, broken but not beaten. I help you because someone should have helped me, and no one did." Eliza blinked back tears. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just prove me right." A month passed. Then two. The cabin grew, the garden flourished, the ranch slowly came back to life after years of neglect. And then one morning, Eliza woke up sick. She barely made it outside before the nausea hit. Elias found her behind the barn, pale and shaking. "What's wrong?" "I don't know. Something I ate, maybe." "You ate what I ate. I feel fine." "Then I don't know." He looked at her. Really looked. Something dawned in his eyes. "Eliza. When was your last bleeding?" The question hit her like a physical blow. She started counting backwards. Days, weeks. I can't remember." "How long?" "Maybe 2 months. I thought it was stress. Everything that happened. 2 months. The words hung between them. Heavy. Impossible. "You think I think we need to see the doctor." "Elias." "Eliza." He took her face in his hands. "Whatever this is, whatever it means, we face it together. Same as everything else." "I'm scared." "I know. Me too." The doctor's confirmation came 3 days later. Eliza sat in the cramped examination room, her hands pressed flat against her stomach, trying to feel something she wasn't sure was real. "About 10 weeks along," the doctor said, "give or take. You should start showing within the next month." 10 weeks. "Congratulations, Mrs. Crow. You're going to be a mother." She walked out of that office in a daze. Elias was waiting on the porch, his face a mask of controlled anxiety. Well, she looked at him. This man who'd saved her life, who'd married her without ceremony or witnesses, who'd killed to protect her. "We're having a baby." The mask cracked. Something raw and vulnerable showed through. "You're sure?" "Doctor's sure. 10 weeks." He didn't speak, didn't move, just stood there staring at her like she'd told him the sky was falling. "Elias, say something." "I don't—" His voice broke. "I spent 2 years thinking I'd never have this. A family, a future. I'd given up. And now everything's different. Everything's different." He pulled her into his arms, held her so tight she could barely breathe. "I love you," he whispered into her hair. "I love you so much it scares me. I love you too. We're gonna be parents. We're gonna be parents." He laughed, actually laughed, a sound of pure, unfiltered joy. "God help that child. With you for a mother and me for a father, they're going to be stubborn as a mule. The stubbornest. And brave. The bravest. And loved." His voice softened. "So loved they won't know what to do with it all." She pulled back enough to look at him, this man who'd become her whole world. "We did it, Elias. We actually did it. We built something real. We're not done building yet. No, we're just getting started." Word came 2 weeks later. Marcus Cole was dead. The sheriff rode out personally to deliver the news. Found them working on the new addition covered in sawdust and sweat. Thought you'd want to know. Federal marshals caught up with him near the Colorado border. He didn't surrender peacefully. He's really dead? Eliza asked. Confirmed. It's over, Mrs. Crow. You're safe. She didn't cry, didn't celebrate, just stood there, letting the news sink in. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you for being willing to testify. Even though it didn't come to that, your courage mattered. After he left, Eliza sat on the half-finished porch and stared at nothing. Elias sat beside her, didn't speak, just waited. I thought I'd feel different, she said finally. Different how? I don't know, happy, relieved, something. You don't feel that. I feel empty. Like I've been carrying this weight for so long I don't know who I am without it. He took her hand, laced his fingers through hers. You're Eliza Crow, my wife, mother of my child, the woman who crawled out of hell and built a life on the other side. Is that enough? It's more than enough. It's everything. She leaned against him, let herself breathe. I want to visit them, the graves, where the caravan was attacked. You sure? I need to say goodbye, properly, before the baby comes. Then we'll go, together. She closed her eyes, felt the sun on her face, felt his heartbeat against her shoulder. I love you, Elias Crow. I love you too, Eliza Crow, more than I ever thought possible. They rode out at dawn 3 days later. Eliza had spent the previous night unable to sleep, her mind racing with memories she'd tried so hard to bury. The faces of the Matthews twins, old Mr. Peterson and his whittling knife, Sarah Ann Cooper, who'd been teaching Eliza to make sourdough bread when the attack came. You don't have to do this, Elias said as they saddled the horses. Yes, I do. It won't bring them back. I know, but it might let them rest. He didn't argue, just mounted his horse and waited for her to do the same. The ride took most of the day. Eliza didn't recognize the land at first. Everything looked different when you weren't running for your life. But then she saw it. The scorched earth where the wagons had burned. The scattered debris that no one had bothered to clear. She dismounted before Elias could help her. This is it. You sure? I'll never forget this place. Not if I live 100 years. She walked forward slowly. The ground was uneven, covered in tall grass that had grown up around the wreckage. Nature reclaiming what violence had taken. They buried them, she said, spotting the row of simple wooden crosses. Someone came and buried them. Sheriff probably sent men, after you reported what happened. Eliza knelt in front of the first cross. No name, just a date. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry I ran. I'm sorry. Her voice broke. Elias knelt beside her, said nothing, just put his hand on her back and let her cry. She visited each grave. 32 crosses, 32 lives cut short. Some she'd known well, some she'd barely spoken to. All of them gone. When she reached the last cross, smaller than the others, too small, she stopped. The twins, she said. Emma and Grace. They were 6 years old. Their mother used to braid their hair every morning. Matching ribbons, pink for Emma, yellow for Grace. I'm sorry. They asked me once if I had any children. I said no. They said that was sad. They said everyone should have children because children make everything better. She touched the rough wood of the cross. I'm going to have a baby, she said softly. A little girl or a little boy. I don't know yet. But I wanted you to know. I wanted you to know that life goes on. Even after something like this. Even when it feels impossible. She pulled something from her pocket, 2 small ribbons she'd bought in town. One pink, one yellow. She tied them to the cross. I won't forget you, I promise. I'll tell my children about you. About all of you. So you won't just be names on crosses. You'll be real. You'll be remembered. She stayed there until the sun started to set. Elias never rushed her, never suggested they leave. Finally, she stood up, brushed the dirt from her knees. "All right, I'm ready." "You sure?" "No, but I'm done. There's a difference." He helped her onto her horse, looked back at the field of crosses one more time. "They'd be proud of you." "You think so?" "I know so. You survived. You built a life. You didn't let the darkness win. We didn't let it win. We didn't let it win." They rode home in silence, but it was a different kind of silence now. Lighter, like something had finally been set down. The baby came in February. Eliza had spent the last weeks of her pregnancy convinced something would go wrong. Every cramp was a warning. Every quiet moment was the calm before disaster. "You need to stop worrying," Mrs. Holloway told her during one of their weekly visits. "Easy for you to say." "It's not, actually. I lost 2 babies before I had my son. Buried them both before they could take their first breath. I know what fear looks like, child. And I know it doesn't help." "Then what does help?" "Faith. Not the church kind necessarily. Just the belief that whatever happens, you'll survive it. You'll find a way through. And if I can't, then you lean on the people who love you until you can stand again." Labor started just before midnight on a Tuesday. Elias was out of bed and dressed before Eliza could even finish telling him what was happening. "I'll get the doctor." "It's the middle of the night." "I don't care if it's the middle of the apocalypse. I'm getting the doctor." He was gone before she could argue. The hours that followed were the longest of Eliza's life. Pain like nothing she'd ever experienced. Waves of it relentless and unforgiving. Mrs. Holloway arrived with the doctor, took one look at Eliza's face, and started giving orders. "Hot water, clean cloths, and you," she pointed at Elias. "You sit down before you fall down." "I'm fine. You're white as a sheet. Sit." He sat. The baby came just as the sun was rising. A healthy cry filling the room. A sound Eliza had been afraid she'd never hear. "It's a girl," the doctor announced. "A girl, a perfect healthy girl." They placed her in Eliza's arms, and everything else disappeared. The pain, the fear, the years of grief and loss and struggle. Just this. Just her daughter. "She's beautiful," Elias said, his voice cracked. "She's so beautiful. She looks like you." "God, I hope not." Eliza laughed through her tears. "She's got your eyes." "And your stubbornness, I bet." "Probably." He reached out, touched the baby's tiny hand, 5 perfect fingers wrapped around his thumb. "What do we call her?" Eliza had thought about this for months, considered 100 names, but in this moment, only one felt right. "Sarah." Elias went very still. "After your wife, after the woman who taught you how to love. Is that all right?" He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was barely a whisper. "It's perfect." "Sarah Grace Crow." "Grace?" "For the twins, Emma and Grace. I want her to carry something of them. Something of everyone we lost." He kissed her forehead, kissed the babies. "Sarah Grace Crow. Welcome to the world, little one." The first year was chaos. Sleepless nights, endless feedings. A tiny human who seemed determined to cry at the worst possible moments. But it was also joy. Pure, overwhelming, terrifying joy. "She smiled at me," Elias announced one morning, bursting through the door with Sarah in his arms. "She's 2 months old. It was probably gas." It was a smile. I know a smile when I see one. "You also thought the chicken was smiling at you last week." "That chicken likes me." Eliza shook her head, but she was smiling too. They fell into a new rhythm. Elias handled the ranch work during the day while Eliza cared for Sarah. At night they traded. He walked the baby. While she slept, she took over in the early morning hours so he could rest. "We're actually doing this," Eliza said one evening, watching Elias rock Sarah by the fire. "Doing what?" "Being parents, being a family." "Did you think we couldn't?" "I thought I couldn't, for a long time. I thought something in me was too broken to make this work." He looked at her, really looked. "You're the least broken person I know." "That's not true." Isn't it? You survived things that would have destroyed most people. You rebuilt yourself from nothing. You chose to love again when you had every reason not to. I had help. Everyone needs help. That's not weakness. That's being human. Sarah made a small sound, not quite a cry, not quite a coo, something in between. See, Elias said. She agrees with me. She's 2 months old, and already brilliant, just like her mother. 2 years passed, then 3, then 5. Sarah grew from a crying infant into a running, climbing, question-asking force of nature. She had Elias's eyes and Eliza's stubbornness, just as they'd predicted. She also had a laugh that could fill the entire valley. Mama, where do stars come from? From very far away. But where? Space. What's space? Everything that's not here. That doesn't make sense. I know, it's complicated. Papa says you say that when you don't know the answer. Eliza shot a look at Elias, who was suddenly very interested in the fence he was mending. Papa talks too much. He says you say that too. The ranch expanded year by year. They hired help 2 young men from town who needed work and didn't mind the isolation. The herd grew. The garden flourished. The house that had started as a cabin was now something closer to a home with rooms and porches and space to breathe. Remember when this place had 1 bed and a cot? Eliza said one evening. I remember. Remember when you found me half dead on your fence? Every day. She leaned against him, watching Sarah chase fireflies in the yard. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't opened your door that night? I try not to. Why? Because every path that doesn't lead to this. He gestured at Sarah, at the house, at their life. Every path that doesn't lead here is a path I don't want to imagine. You could have turned me away. No, I couldn't have. Why not? He was quiet for a long moment. Because I looked at you lying there in the dirt and I saw myself. I saw what I'd been for 2 years, broken and alone and barely holding on. And I thought, if I turn her away, I'm giving up. On her. On me. On the possibility that anything could ever be different. You saved my life. You saved mine first. You just didn't know it yet. Sarah ran toward them, a firefly cupped in her hands. Look what I caught. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Can I keep it? Fireflies need to be free. They can't shine if they're trapped. Sarah considered this with the solemnity of a 5-year-old philosopher. Like us. Like us. You and Papa. Mrs. Holloway told me you were both trapped once, in sadness. But you found each other, and now you're free. Eliza and Elias exchanged a look. Mrs. Holloway's pretty smart, Eliza said. She's very old. Old people know everything. Don't let her hear you call her old. She says it herself. She says she's old enough to say whatever she wants. Sarah opened her hands. The firefly hesitated, then lifted off, joining the others in their endless dance. Bye, Firefly. Thank you for letting me hold you. They watched her run off again, and Eliza felt something settle in her chest. Peace. Real peace. We did it, she said softly. Did what? Survived. Built something. Made a life worth living. Was there ever any doubt? Every single day. For years. And now? She looked at their daughter. At their home. At this man who'd become her whole world. Now I know. This is what we were fighting for. This is what made all of it worth it. The old cot still sat by the fireplace. They'd talked about getting rid of it a dozen times. It was too small, too worn, took up space they could use for something else. But every time they decided to move it, something stopped them. It's where you slept that first night, Elias said, when I didn't know if you'd live till morning. It's where I started to believe I might be okay again. It's where we sat together in the dark and learned how to trust each other. So it stayed. A reminder, a monument to everything they'd overcome. Sarah asked about it once. Why do you keep that old bed, Mama? Nobody sleeps in it. It's special. Why? Eliza knelt down to her daughter's level. Because that's where our family started. Before you were born. Before Papa and I got married. When I was hurt and scared and didn't know what was going to happen. Were you very sad? Very sad. For a long time. And Papa made you happy. Papa helped me remember how to make myself happy. There's a difference. Sarah thought about this. I'm glad you're not sad anymore. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. Years continued to pass. Sarah grew taller, started school in town, made friends, brought home stray animals that Elias pretended to be annoyed by, but always ended up feeding. The ranch became one of the most successful in the valley. People who'd once whispered about Eliza now greeted her warmly in town. Time had a way of softening memories, turning tragedy into legend. You hear about the Crow place. Newcomers would be told. Woman who lives there survived a massacre, walked out of the wilderness half dead. Now look at them, finest spread in the county. Eliza learned to accept the attention without cringing, learned to tell her story without drowning in it. Does it ever get easier? A young widow asked her once. Losing someone you love. It gets different. The grief doesn't go away. It just becomes part of you, like a scar. It hurts sometimes, especially when the weather changes. But it's also proof that you survived. I don't feel like I survived. I feel like I died with him. I know. I felt that way too. For a long time. Eliza took the woman's hand. But you're still here. You're still breathing. And as long as you're breathing, there's a chance for something new. How do you know? Because I'm living proof. One summer evening when Sarah was 8 years old, Eliza found Elias standing at the edge of their property, staring at the horizon. What are you looking at? Nothing. Everything. She stood beside him, took his hand. Talk to me. Just thinking about how different everything is. 10 years ago, I was ready to die in that cabin. Alone. Forgotten. I'd given up on everything. And now I can't imagine my life without you, without Sarah, without any of this. Do you regret it? Opening your door that night. He turned to face her. That's the first thing I've never regretted in my entire life. Not one moment. Not one. Even the hard parts. Even the fights and the fear and the times I thought we wouldn't make it. I'd do it all again. Every single second. She leaned into him, felt his arms wrap around her. I used to think I was cursed, she said. After the raid, after Thomas died, I thought the universe had decided I wasn't meant to be happy. What do you think now? I think the universe doesn't care one way or the other. I think happiness isn't something that happens to you. It's something you build, day by day, choice by choice. That's pretty wise. I learned from a stubborn old rancher who talks to his horse. That horse gives good advice. So do you. Sarah came running from the house, her hair wild, her dress already dirty, despite Eliza's best efforts. Mama, Papa, the barn cat had kittens. How many? Elias asked. 5. Can I keep them? Please, I'll take care of them, I promise. Eliza and Elias exchanged a look. The same look they'd exchanged 100 times over the years. The look that said, How did we get so lucky? You can keep one, Eliza said. 2. 1. What about the others? We'll find them homes, don't worry. Sarah grabbed their hands and pulled them toward the barn, chattering the whole way about names and colors, and which kitten was already her favorite. Eliza let herself be pulled along. Let herself be part of this moment. This life. This family she'd built from the ashes of everything she'd lost. That night after Sarah was asleep, Eliza stood in the doorway of their bedroom and looked at the old cot one more time. What are you thinking? Elias asked from behind her. I'm thinking about the woman who slept there. How scared she was. How broken. And I'm thinking she'd be pretty amazed to see what her life became. What would you tell her if you could go back? Eliza considered the question. I'd tell her to hold on. Just a little longer. I'd tell her that the pain isn't permanent, even when it feels infinite. I'd tell her that she's stronger than she knows, braver than she believes, and more loved than she can possibly imagine. That's a lot to tell someone. She needed to hear it. We all do sometimes. Elias came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, rested his chin on her shoulder. I love you, Eliza Crow. I love you too, Elias Crow. Thank you. For what? For crawling out of the wilderness and collapsing on my fence. For being stubborn enough to live. For choosing me when you could have chosen to be alone. She turned in his arms, faced him. You didn't save me. You know that, right? I saved myself. I know. You just gave me a place to do it, space to breathe, time to heal. That's all any of us can give each other. It's everything. She kissed him, soft, familiar, full of all the words they didn't need to say anymore. Come to bed, he said. In a minute. She looked at the cot one more time, at the woman she used to be, at the life she'd built from nothing. Then she turned off of the lamp, took her husband's hand, and walked into a future she'd earned with every breath, every choice, every stubborn refusal to give up. Home wasn't a place. Home was the person who stayed when leaving would have been easier. And Eliza Crow was finally, completely, irrevocably home.